I never lose, either I win or I learn. Those are my only options, to whomever it may concern. About to be a hot topic, play with fire, you get burned. Ain't nobody give me nothing, whatever I got, better I earn. I never lose, but I learn. I either win or I
Thank you for
learn.
listening to the
Those are my
Strong
only
AF
options.
podcast.
This episode is brought to you by our Weight Loss Transformation Masterclass. After spending over 30 years of my life being obese and dealing with chronic constipation issues, I decided to get my certification in fitness, nutrition, and wellness to empower myself to lose over 70 pounds and keep it off.
Watching my brother and dad have a heart attack within weeks of each other, I knew I had to make a change, but I wasn't sure what to do. After researching and studying to get my certification in fitness, nutrition, and weight loss management, I was able to use this knowledge I gained to lose over 80 pounds and keep it off.
Now we're passionate about helping others to avoid the same mistakes that we made and changing the world through holistic health and wellness. So our approach is focused on mindset because overall health, including our mental health, means everything to us.
Imagine waking up with more energy than you imagined possible, no longer worrying about digestive issues and bloating.
We're here to show you how to ditch the fad diets and make small changes in your lifestyle, which will make a massive impact on your quality of life.
These are changes that you will be able to pass on for generations to come. Go to veganstrongandfit.com/masterclass today to sign up for your free masterclass and get started on a happier, healthier journey.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Strong AF podcast. I'm Ashley,
I'm Yuri.
and we're so excited to have a wonderful guest on with us today. So today we have on Katrina Crandall. She is a blogger at the Gluten Free Vegetarian, where she shares recipes and meal planning tips to support wellness. She also has developed a successful approach to meal planning for a wide range of needs, including food sensitivities, allergies, medical conditions, tight budgets, and picky eaters. I think she's pretty much covered everything there.
All bases covered.
And also, she has lost over 60 pounds by meal planning as one of her primary weight management tools. And what makes her strong is her dedication to family and God. Welcome, Katrina. We are so excited to have you on with us today.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm really thrilled to be here, and I'm just so grateful for all the support that you two have provided me in this journey, and I'm excited for the conversation today.
Yes, us too. You have, I mean, as much as you say that we've inspired you, you've inspired us as well, because that is a huge accomplishment right there. 60 pounds, that's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been quite a journey. And I lost that weight over the course of 2 years. So I did it gradually and very intentionally. And so far I've been able to keep it off. So I'm really happy about that progress.
That's amazing. So, what made you kind of go on this journey? I mean, was there something that led you to that? Any health issues, or is it just something that kind of you've developed in this journey?
There was absolutely just sort of a number of health issues that inspired me to start the health loss journey. So when I became pregnant with my daughter, who's now 7, I had gained quite a bit of weight during the pregnancy. And during the course of the pregnancy, I had picked up some eating habits that weren't so very good for me. I just sort of ate what I wanted to because I was pregnant. So I figured that was just my ticket to eat whatever I wanted to, whenever I wanted to. And I maintained that new habit after she was born. So, and also I hadn't been exercising towards the end of my pregnancy. I had been put on bed rest. And so I hadn't been exercising, and I just got out of the habit of doing that. So I had, after gaining weight, I really started getting a lot of joint pain, and I was just sort of breath. I had a lot of aches and pains, very low energy. And I started realizing that I felt a lot older than my actual age. And that was when I started realizing that I wanted to make a change. So that's when I started learning more about nutrition, and I started learning more about macronutrients, and I started exercising, and I started slowly, and I started taking it easy. I was very surprised to find that I love weightlifting. I never thought that I would enjoy weightlifting, but I love it. And I found that weightlifting is the absolute best thing for my back pain. And so I've just continued on that journey. And then started getting just really, really bad stomach problems, like very severe. And I had that for months and months, and I could not find what the source of the problem was. I went to numerous doctors, had all kinds of tests. I thought maybe it was medication because I get migraines. Yuri, I know that you have some experience with that, so you know what that's like. So I thought maybe it was medication. I didn't know. So I looked into all kinds of things. Eventually, my general practitioner suggested that I try cutting out gluten. And lo and behold, that was it. I tried cutting out gluten and just instantly discovered that that was the source of the problem. So that was when I went gluten free. And at the beginning, I wasn't sure if that was going to really stick, if it was going to be just a temporary thing. Well, it's definitely a long-term thing for me. So that was when I went gluten-free, and that has been a wonderful choice for my health. And then, yeah, I'll share a little bit about my vegetarian and vegan journey as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I have a question before we move on.
Yes.
So how long have
sure.
you been gluten-free? And like for our listeners out there who are interested in going gluten-free, what kind of struggles did you face in the beginning, and how did you overcome those to make that a lifestyle choice?
So I think I've been gluten-free for about 3 or 4 years now. And when I first stopped eating gluten, it was a large learning curve for me. And so I just didn't understand how many things have gluten in them. So I understood, of course, that your typical piece of bread that you might order at a restaurant or that you might pick up off the shelves at a grocery store, I understood that that had gluten in it. What I didn't understand were all the other things that you might not necessarily expect would have gluten in them, like something like a piece of licorice that actually has wheat in it.
Wow,
or
I wouldn't have felt that either.
Right. Or like I'm originally from New Mexico, so like some enchilada sauce, like the red chili sauce, sometimes they put flour in that, and you wouldn't normally expect that. So just I had to learn that there's a lot of things that when you first look at it, you wouldn't normally think might have wheat in it. So that was a learning curve for me. But I think like anything, like going vegetarian or going vegan, once you learn those things, it just becomes second nature, and it's knowledge that you have, and it's something that you've got in your tool belt. And at first I did feel a little bit like I was denying myself almost, and I felt a little bit of loss at the beginning. But once I understood the connection to how much better I felt, then it didn't feel like a loss anymore. And I think that there's a strong correlation there to going vegan as well, because at first, so I think some people, including me, might feel like, oh, you're kind of denying yourself something that you might think that you want, right? But then you start realizing, actually, you don't want it, because what you don't want is to feel the way that to feel sick. You don't want to feel sick. So you actually don't want that food.
Right.
And so once you make that connection, like you look at the food and like your stomach turns a little bit, because you're like, oh, I don't want that.
Yeah.
And then, and then also I think that, those of us who work in health and work with food, like part of why we do this work is because we love food, right? Like, I love food and I love to eat. And so I think probably you guys do too, because you've made this amazing cookbook that I love, by the way. Like, anyone out there who doesn't have Ashley and Yuri's cookbook, you need to get it. Like, there's fantastic recipes in there.
Thank you.
So like part of the fun, I think, is in finding these new things that you truly love to eat. So going gluten free and like discovering new things that I really love to eat is fun. And like going vegan again, I'll tell more of my story in a minute, but I previously was vegan, going vegan again now. And like, it's just sort of fun, like experimenting and finding things that like I truly love to eat and look forward to eating. And they make me feel so good. And they support my health goals and my weight maintenance goals. And they make me feel energetic. And it's just really a great thing when all of those pieces of your life are in alignment. So
exactly.
That's one thing I definitely love about vegan, is where you may feel like you're stuffing yourself just because you're enjoying it, but then at the same time you're eating all these veggies and fruits, and then you can actually do stuff. You don't feel like when you're eating all these processed foods and these animal flesh, where you just feel, okay, I'm sleepy, there's nothing I can do. I can't go on anymore. I can't do anything but lay down, watch TV, and be lazy and just sit there.
Exactly.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. You feel lighter in your body. You feel more energetic. Yeah. And it's fun to go through that. What's that?
It processes so much easier too, which, and again, helps with the stomach and the digestive issues. Because I have definitely been on the same path as you have, not with the gluten intolerance, but from a constipation standpoint. And so just those stomach and those digestive issues, that can affect your entire body and your whole mood.
Yes, I heard one of your earlier podcasts about the health issues that you both had earlier in life. And it's just amazing how much your nutrition impacts your health. And it really struck me, Ashley, how your doctors looked at so many things, but not nutrition.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
Yeah, that was never brought up. And yet it's the simplest cure that you can do.
Right.
That's the thing with, I guess, most medical schools. A lot of doctors don't get the nutrition training. They just get more of the medication, this and that, instead of actually suggesting fruits and veggies and stuff like that. They just go straight for the money. The money is in the medicine. And we all know that it doesn't really heal you or cure you. It's more like sick maintenance pills that they're giving you, because you're constantly having to refill these medications, and it's sad.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
Definitely. So how then did you decide to transition? Because I know you were vegan before, right? And then you kind of went back into the vegetarian, and then you started transitioning back into vegan. So kind of what was that transition like, and your journey over that?
So I originally stopped eating meat when I was 16. So I've had sort of a lot of years of not eating meat, but then over the course of those years, there have been periods where I have been pescatarian. So there are a few pescatarian recipes on my blog, and then periods where I was vegan as well, like in the 90s, early 2000s. And that was the period of time where I did feel like I was denying myself, and I was doing it. My primary motivation for being vegan was animal welfare, and I think that and that's still one of my motivations now, and an important motivation for me. But I think that I really struggled with that missing piece of finding the foods that I love and also making the connection to my health. I really was missing that connection at the time. I wasn't a good cook. I didn't enjoy cooking. That didn't come until later in life. I loved food, but I didn't love cooking, and I didn't enjoy experimenting with recipes. And so I just really struggled with that. And that's why I fell off of the vegan diet, unfortunately. And it took a lot of years to get back to the point where I felt motivated enough to do it again. And you two were part of my motivation to do it again. I think it had been in the back of my mind for quite some time, but I needed that extra push, and you two motivated me. There was another coach, Learner Vegan, who motivated me as well. And I think part of what I really appreciate about your approach is the no judgment approach and the support. And then also just your transformation is so inspiring. Love your Facebook group. Anyone out there listening, you got to get in the Facebook group if you're not in there already. There's wonderful content in there. So it was helpful to have that push, and it was just time for me to do it. And I can't remember when it was exactly. It was a few months ago, I guess, that I said, initially I said, I'm going to give myself a 90-day challenge of going vegan. And even when I said that, I kind of already knew it wasn't just going to be 90 days. Like I knew that it was going to be forever, but it just felt more manageable, I guess, if I set the 90 days for myself.
Right.
And so that's what I did. I said, okay, 90 days, gonna try it. And as soon as I set out, like I didn't have the cravings that I had back the first time I went vegan so many years ago. I didn't feel the deprivation. I'm really enjoying experimenting. I'm finding new things like I tried your chickpea scramble and from your cookbook, and I had learned that you can use the aquafaba, the liquid from the chickpeas as an egg replacer. So then I started experimenting with that in baking, and I hadn't done that before. I learned that you can use vegan protein powder as an egg replacer. So I'm just having fun trying new things this time. And what I have also found this time around is that I still had some residual stomach issues even after I went gluten free, and those have resolved themselves over the past few months. And so I attribute those to dairy. And I hadn't been sure. I wasn't sure if it was soy. I wasn't quite sure what those stomach problems were, but I'm eating all the edamame and tofu I want right now, and my stomach's doing great. So I really think it was the dairy.
That's awesome. So I had kind of the same thing, right? So actually I tested I don't know if it's positive or how you consider testing for allergies, but anyway, when I was younger, I had tested that I was mildly allergic to soy products. So I had always kind of avoided those throughout. And now I'm able to eat tofu, edamame, tempeh, all those things just fine. My stomach doesn't have any issues. But after I eliminated the dairy, that was a huge thing for me. And I was actually very severely allergic to cheese. So I would have complete breakouts and trouble breathing whenever I would consume cheese. I had to go off of it for like 6 or so months at a time to let my body reset. And then crazy thing is, even knowing I was allergic to cheese, I would wait 6 months and then I would eat it again, knowing how it reacted to my body, just because I think that those types of products are like so normalized in our society, and I felt deprived without it. But now that I've learned different alternatives and how it really affects my body, not just in that one way, that kind of helped deter me. And I think that goes back to what you were saying with the first time you were going vegan, you felt very deprived. And then this time around, you didn't have those cravings, you didn't have those feelings. And a lot of that has to do with our mindset, right? So
Yes.
Whenever we're trying to make a change, it can be for a good reason. But if it's not a driving factor for us, and it's not a like, if I do this, this is going to happen to me kind of thing, then a lot of times we can kind of go back on that. And we just have to have the right motivation. So we've tried to do these. We tried to go vegan several years ago, just a day, and we weren't able to do it because it was just.
I thought it was like a meal, maybe.
We did it for one day.
We made it that far?
No, we didn't make it that far, but that was the goal. But we couldn't do it because we didn't have that right mindset, right? We were just doing it to try to do something.
It was the new trend that we just wanted to try, see what it was all about.
Exactly. It wasn't, we didn't really have a driving force behind it like we did this time with the health issues. And I think that's a big thing for people. Like, it's very difficult to make a complete lifestyle change unless you have that why in your mind that is a do or die type thing.
Right.
Especially with birds and being for the animals and stuff like that, the way they're treated, and then what it does to your body and stuff like that. That's definitely a big reason to get behind it.
Exactly, because this time we went vegan for our health, but after watching all these documentaries about the animals and the environment, it was like, now knowing what we know, there's no way I could go back, because it's just like you have all of this evidence to back that up, and it's not just one thing, it's like how much it impacts. And that has really stuck with us.
Yeah, because I used to think, going back to when we became vegan, how am I going to react if I'm around people and they're eating animal products and stuff like that? Will I be tempted to go back into that lifestyle? But now I see it and they're like, hey, does this bother you? And I'm like, no, just go ahead. If you decide to eat that, that's all on you. I'm perfectly fine over here. I'm fine with my salad or whatever I'm eating. It's no big deal to me.
Yeah. So with that said, I know that you have a family, right? So how is that with your family? Are they following the same? Are they on that same journey, or are they still eating different things than you? And does that make it difficult?
So my immediate family is my husband and our 7-year-old daughter, and my husband is not gluten-free or vegan, but it's actually not difficult at all because I do the meal planning and he's very happy to eat whatever I cook. So, we both cook actually, but he's very happy to eat whatever I put on the meal plan. And we really like cooking together. And for the most part, we have the same tastes and recipes. So I try to make sure that whatever is on the meal plan is something that we're both going to enjoy. And then if we go out to restaurants, or back in the day before coronavirus, when we went out to restaurants, then, he might order meat or whatever he wants to order. But in terms of what we have in the house, it's gluten-free and vegan, and he's fine with that. And then our daughter, it's so interesting because, well, first of all, she's a very picky eater. So if you have any recommendations about getting kids to eat new things, I would love to hear it. But it's very interesting because I have been careful. I've obviously been a vegetarian her whole life, but I've been careful not to make disparaging remarks about eating meat or anything. But she has never eaten meat and never wants to. And that obviously is fine with us, and we support that decision, but it's just been very interesting to me just to see that she has had different options available to her, and she is very clear, always has been very clear, as long as she's been able to articulate it, that that's the decision she wants to make. However, I really need her to be eating more vegetables. So I do not know how to get her to do that. So if you've got any tips, I'd love to hear it.
That is definitely the tough part. So we struggle with that too. And it's like as soon as they find something they like, I feel like the next meal they're like, "Ooh, that's nasty."
Yeah, especially
I'm
with
like,
our
"But you ate it all
3-year-old.
last time."
Yeah, with our 3-year-old, what was
Yeah.
it? It was something a while back that it was maybe like the chickpea nuggets or something like that.
Yeah.
That he's like, "Oh, I don't like it. I don't like it." It's like you've been loving it,
Yeah.
and now all of a sudden you
Right.
don't like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
It's
My
just
daughter does the same thing.
it's a
And I
bunch
get so
of
excited when
I
she
yeah.
know.
likes something. I'm like, finally, something she
Yes.
likes. And then, and then
Yeah.
she decides she doesn't anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So
Well,
it's just constantly trying new things. Now, one
right.
thing I've noticed is when I bring them in with me to try to help me cook, they try it more. So
Mm-hmm.
because they've made it. So even though they know what's in it, as long as it's not something like onions, they'll tend to try stuff. And then our 3-year-old, he tries to avoid anything green. So if we do something like that,
Mm-hmm.
smoothies work for him. So we just
Mm-hmm.
blend it in a smoothie so he can't see it. And that part works to get his greens in. But other than that, the veggies kind of have to be hidden for him.
Yes,
Right.
certain ones we can do. Like when we try certain oyster mushrooms and stuff like that, we'll fix it and we'll tell him it's chicken. And his older brother, who just turned 9, he'll be like, "This is mushrooms," and we'll be like, "No, no, no, don't say that. It's chicken." And then
Yeah.
he's like, "No, it's not mushrooms. It's chicken." We're like, "Yes, you love chicken. Now eat it." And he's like, "Yeah, this chicken tastes good."
Yeah.
Well, years ago, when my daughter was like 3 and 4, I used to like puree vegetables and then put them into muffins and things like that. And pancakes, and she had no idea she was eating it. And I got away from that. So I'm thinking about doing that again. I think I might try that.
That's a great idea. Yeah. I love that.
So
Um,
that might be my next experimentation. So I'll let you know if that
That's the
works.
fun part. That's the fun part. All the experimenting
Yeah.
and
mhm.
trying new things and then seeing what you could turn into a vegan, or it's just
Yes.
fun
Yeah.
trying different recipes and herbs and spices and stuff like that,
Yeah.
because you
Mm-hmm.
see all these chefs making these exquisite meals and stuff, and being vegan and stuff like that, you take that on as a challenge.
Yeah.
Like, can I make a hot dog out of this carrot or something like that?
Right.
Now,
So are you
speaking of
guys
all the experimentation, because I know that you just said that when you started off the first time that you didn't enjoy cooking and all that stuff, and that's why you fell off, but now you're a food blogger. So,
Mhm.
how did you go from not enjoying cooking to becoming a food blogger? Because that's definitely an interesting story there.
Yes, well, I think that once I met my husband, I got interested in cooking because suddenly I had someone to cook with,
Hmm.
and I discovered that we really enjoy cooking together, as I mentioned. And so that was when I really started getting interested in cooking and in recipes, and also meal planning. That was when I started really getting into meal planning, and I discovered that was something I enjoy as well. Um, and when I started getting interested in blogging was when I first went gluten free. I felt like there were, of course, a lot of resources out there for people who are gluten free, a lot of resources out there for people who are vegetarian. But at the time, I felt like there were relatively few resources for people who are gluten free and vegetarian.
Yeah,
And
it's a big
so,
niche there that's hard to
yes,
find.
yeah. Yes. So I thought, well, as I go through this exploration myself, I'm going to start sharing what I learn. And so that's what I started doing. Um, and then I decided that I would start sharing the meal planning as well, because um, I think what I have done over the years is that I've really used meal planning
Mhm.
to reach certain goals. So definitely weight loss goals is a big one, but there are all kinds of goals that you can set for meal planning. So if you mentioned environmental impact. So if environmental impact is a goal you want to set, you can do that through meal planning, buying more organic, or buying food with less packaging, buying more local, or right now, my primary focus for meal planning is making this transition to vegan, because that, suddenly I'm looking for and using and creating new recipes. So it's just a shift, or maybe it's finances for your family. There was a period last year where, over a short term, that was my primary meal planning goal. And my husband was so surprised. He was like, I don't understand why our groceries are so cheap. It's like, well, that's because it was my top priority for meal planning. So whatever, there are so many different goals, and I feel like meal planning is just a great tool to use for all kinds of things.
And
So
I
that
think with
was
that, budgeting right now is going to be a huge thing, right? Because,
mhm,
so many people are struggling with financial issues and job loss with COVID. So that's a
right.
huge thing. So what kind of tips do you have to give on that? Because I know you also have you have a meal planning course as well, right?
I do. So I have a free 5-day email course on meal planning. And then I have a larger course on meal planning that goes in much
Hmm.
more depth on a lot of this stuff. But both the free email course and the larger course start out with like setting your goals, figuring out what your top priority goals are for both you and your family in that period of life. But yeah, absolutely. Finances and budgeting is a great one to focus on. And so, just a few tips on that. One thing to do is to shop your kitchen. So when you sit down, before you write down the recipes for the week, look all through your pantry, all through your fridge, and all through your freezer. So um, create recipes out of whatever ingredients you already have. And one of my favorite websites is allrecipes.com, and you can actually go in. So if you have a few ingredients that you think might go well together, but you're not exactly sure what recipe might come out of it, you can actually search for recipes by ingredients. And then you can also filter them out by vegan or gluten free as well.
That's so cool. I had
And
no idea.
it's a wonderful tool. So so you can actually just you can save a lot of money that way.
Yeah.
If you feel like you've already got like 20% of your grocery shopping already done based on what you already have. And what I found when I do that, especially the first week that you do it, you often have a lot of food that you didn't remember or
Right.
didn't realize that you had, until you actually go in and you start making a
Hmm.
list. You're like, oh my gosh, I have like half a bag of rice, which can, feed a family of 5 very easily
Hmm.
for 1 or 2 meals, depending on what you add to it. So that would be one tip. And then another tip, which took me a minute to get used to, but then I was totally hooked once I started doing it, which is actually to use a grocery shopping service, which is where you shop online, and then you either pick your groceries up, or you might have them delivered. And
Hmm.
it might sound a little counterintuitive, because you usually have to pay a small fee, like $3 or $5 or whatever, to do that. But it saves so much money, because you only buy what is on your grocery list.
Hmm.
And maybe other shoppers are just more focused than I am. I don't know. But if I go into that store, 100% of the time, I am buying stuff that is not on my list. And then also, since we both have small kids, I think you can probably relate to this. Like if you go into the store, it's a lot harder to maintain focus long enough to like do the comparison shopping.
Oh yeah.
Whereas if you're shopping online, it's a lot easier to just like type in an ingredient and then you get all of them right there on the page and you can very quickly sort which is the cheapest. So.
And you don't hear the mommy,
those
can
are
I have this? Can I have this? Can I have this?
Oh yes, yes.
I'm good at saying no. I'm good at saying no. No, you can't have that. No, we don't need that.
Yeah.
No, you can't eat that. No.
And another great thing about those services too is that you can save the list. So if you've got a weekly meal plan that you really like, you can save that grocery list and you can use the exact same one again. You can modify it a little bit if you want, but it ends up being a huge time saver if you want to use that weekly meal plan again in the future. So,
that's so cool.
I've become a huge fan of the grocery shopping services.
What's your favorite service that you use?
So we use one, it's just our local grocery store just down the street. And so they have their individual one.
Okay.
But Instacart is one example of a national service and they provide that service for a lot of different grocery stores around the country. So that's a popular one. And then even Walmart and Target, they offer those as well. So.
Yeah, that's great that there's so many options now. And I think, even though it's unfortunate that we had to go through the pandemic, I think that opened up a lot of services that weren't there before too, that are very helpful and that will continue through the future.
Yes, absolutely.
Because if you're, like you said, if you were a small, let's say mom and pop grocery store or something like that, if you didn't provide that pickup or delivery service, especially in times of COVID, you pretty much missed out on a huge market because you're not going to get everybody that's wanting to come in and wear a mask, and they're so fearful of COVID and stuff like that. But a lot of companies have adjusted, and that's for the greater good.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. So where can our listeners find out more about your course?
So my website is gf-veg.com, and you can, there's actually a freebies link where you can go, and there's all kinds of good stuff there, but the 5-day meal plan course is at the freebies link.
That's awesome. And we'll include all the details in the show notes below too.
Great. Thank you.
Wonderful. So where else can we find you? On Facebook, Instagram?
Yes. Gluten Free Vegetarian is on Facebook, and then on Instagram, I'm at gf.veg. And I would love for folks to reach out and connect. I'm also on Pinterest as the Gluten Free Vegetarian. So I love sharing recipes and meal planning tips on Pinterest, and there's all kinds of fun stuff there.
Wonderful. Well, you have been such an inspiration, and I love everything that you're doing, especially with the meal planning. So thank you again so much for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me. I really had a good time chatting with you both, and I look forward to staying in touch with you both. And I'm just really glad that I'm really glad for all of the resources that you provided, and I'm excited to see what you guys are going to come out with next.
Oh, thank you. Same here.